Hello, I'm Jerome Hieronymus of the Orthodox Oasis, and I played Star Wars Jedi Survivor.
I cannot tell you who you must become, or where the line is drawn.
The epic adventures of Cal Kestis returns in Star Wars Jedi Survivor. As the now Jedi Knight continues his fight against the oppressive Galactic Empire, with new force powers, lightsaber stances, abilities, and equipment as he explores new frontiers, faces new threats, and fights for those he cares about.
Seems our destinies are intertwined.
I really enjoyed the experience Respawn gave us this time. They have shown that they have the passion and the care needed to tell a good Star Wars story, unlike the shows and the movies nowadays. And though I don't really like the combat that Respawn has, it feels a little too unpolished for my liking. I found this game to be mostly enjoyable front to back. As always, let's take a look at the ESRB rating and some of my own observations. The ESRB have given this game a T for teen with the tags mild language and violence. Mild language was indeed mild. Star Wars has always been a little light on the language some might find undesirable, and this game goes a bit harder than what you might hear in the movies. The ESRB made note of ass and bastard, though I heard damn in my time in the game. I did not play a lot of the side content, so I cannot say if there's any instances where any character goes hard on harsh language, but the main story does not have much. As for violence, Respawn's style is, of course, to keep it mild. You're not going to get blood and gore, and the dismemberments are mostly from robots and creatures. The worst thing that happens to humanoid NPCs are arms being chopped off, a Star Wars staple at this point. You should expect nothing more or less than what you see in the movies. There is, of course, the talk of the Force, including the light and the dark side and its relationship to people. You're not going to hear anything that you haven't heard in the movies, so if you were uncomfortable or offended by what's in the movies, it'll be the same here. So let's jump into the review with the story, and then we'll move on to graphics and performance, followed by gameplay, and then we'll end with the game's amazing music soundtrack. Sorry, spoilers for how I feel about that one. We join Cal Kestis 7 years into the future as he is banded with Saul Guerrera in a fight against the Empire. The game opens with a beautiful shot of Coruscant and the capture and transportation of Cal to a senator. Though things are not as they seem, and after a not-so-smooth escape from Coruscant, Cal finds himself in need of a place to hide and allies to rely on. You'll find yourself much like the first game exploring planets and space stations, but this time, they went out of their way, and a couple of the planets are a truly large experience with so much to do. Your hub planet being the largest, you'll find yourself helping to build up and expand a settlement, meeting new people, completing side quests, gardening, and playing a spaceboard game. Cal soon uncovers a raider gain on a secret mission revealing long-lost secrets from the High Republic, and Cal takes on that mysterious dark past while finding out what has happened to his old crew over the years. The game takes an amazing turn at the end where all heck breaks loose, and you begin to wonder who you can and cannot trust. Once again, Respawn Entertainment has lovingly taken the mantle of Star Wars storyteller and given us a great adventure from top to bottom. This is a story you don't want to miss out on. I wish I could say the same about the performance, though. Ah, modern gaming, the sweet lies you tell us. Depending on when you watch this review, patches may or may not have come out to fix all the issues. I can only tell you what I experienced. I have an RTX 3070 with 32 gigabytes of RAM and an i7 12-core processor. I had a very choppy experience even after updating all my drivers. EA. This game ran a solid 30 frames at the best of times, and in many cases would become a PowerPoint slideshow at certain spots. And that is a shame. This is a Star Wars game. The worlds are beautifully crafted, the lighting is great. When the frames dipped their sweet toes in that 60 plus frames from time to time, the game was quite an experience. You can't say this is an ugly game. You can say it ran like garbage, though. I want to make a side note. I bought this game on Steam, and it would not launch from Steam. After an hour of messing around with my settings and updating things, the only way I could get the game to launch was from the EA app, which of course requires an account and all that. It's ridiculous that the game is being sold in Steam, but won't launch from Steam. EA, we don't want your app, and we shouldn't need your app if you're going to sell the game on Steam. All in all, the performance is going to be a deal breaker for a lot of people until they fix it. Speaking of fixing things, I have a confession. I don't like Respawn's gameplay. I'm not going to say it's bad. It's not. It's not bad. I'm going to say that it's not for me. I know what I'm about to say is going to give me some heat, so here I go. Respawn's swordplay and parrying are not as good as From Software's. The force powers are great. They feel great. I loved using them. It is just the foundational swordplay that just doesn't feel good to me. Let me try and explain. Let's start with parrying. I feel like it's just off. It's a quarter of a second off from where it needs to be. It feels like you need to parry not when you're about to be hit, which is normal. When you're about to be hit, you parry. This feels like you need to parry just before you're being hit. I play a lot of From Software games, and most games that have a parry mechanic have the same timing. Respawn's timing just seems to be too early, and it never feels right to me. I want to parry an attack as it's hitting me, not before it hits me. And I played the game on the Jedi Knight difficulty, so the parrying timing was quite forgiving as compared to the first game, but still. Another annoyance of parrying was not being able to parry blaster shots multiple times in a row. For example, in Sekiro, you could parry any and all attacks from every enemy in the game, as long as it was blockable. Whereas here, you can only parry a single shot from a series of shots coming from an enemy. Or I just wasn't as good as the game as I thought I was. Maybe I was missing something. Let me know your experience down below. As for the swordplay, I found I had an annoyance in the back of my head for the longest time that took a while to figure out. It was the back and forth with enemies. I could block and parry an enemy for 5 to 10 seconds waiting for my opportunity to retaliate, and when it was my time, I'd get like 1 or 2 hits in, rarely a full combo. Then the enemies would get their stamina bar back, and I'd be back at square one, waiting for my opportunity. Many times I felt like I was being punished for being good at the game. If I saw an opening on a regular enemy, I would try and get an attack in to get some of that health or stamina damage. And the game was just like, no, sorry, it's not your turn yet. Please, wait in line. Now for bosses, sure, it feels fine when you can't keep staggering them out of their combos, but for regular enemies, let me have that health and stamina damage when I can find time to attack. Speaking of bosses, they're a mixed bag. I enjoyed all the ones I faced, even if they're all too easy. I don't think I spent over an hour on a single boss. 3/4 of them fell in a single try, while most took around 15 attempts. I would prefer harder bosses, but maybe I should have been playing on a harder setting, so. That being said, the cinematics and storytelling during bosses were top notch. Each major fight felt great. I'm going to keep this section short because I can't say much about how great the soundtrack was. The soundtrack is accredited to Stephen Barton and Gordy Habb. They nailed the feel of what Star Wars is. Taking the foundation laid out by John Williams so long ago, you will not be able to tell the difference from the movies. I can only think of 2 or 3 times where the music from the movies is used, where the vast majority of the music seems to be original. Your ears will be serenaded through this game. Well, in closing, I hope they get to work and fix the performance issues as soon as possible, as this is the only thing keeping the game from being a masterpiece. As I can only recommend the experience I had at launch, because that's when I played, I can only recommend that you wait for fixes and for a sale. It's a $70 game, and it's a shame. I'd give this game 70 lightsabers out of 100 blaster shots, and don't shoot first, wait for a sale. As always, this is Jerome or Hieronymus from the Orthodox Oasis, and if there's anything worthy of praise, think about these things.